That's like a stand-up start, isn't it? I'm Steve, for those of you who don't know me. I'm married to Jo, who was around, she's at the back. Have we got that? Yeah, Happy New Year! Has that been said this morning yet? When do we stop saying that? Probably after today, next week, tomorrow. Has anyone this year, like last week, made a New Year's resolution? Come on. There's 3 or 4. What have we got? What was yours, if you're happy to say?
I gave up smoking.
Gave up smoking, nice! Tony? Health-based. Anyone else health-based? Little fingers up, I think. Mine's a little bit, probably do a bit more sport, eat a little bit healthier. That will last about a week. And then, then I'll start a new one. Has anyone ever actually completed a New Year's resolution? Like, for the year? In your history, ever? No. Pauline, what was yours?
I read the Bible in a year.
Read the Bible, yeah, on the front row. That's why. That's why you have to go to Pauline, because she knows the Bible. But it's hard, right? It's hard. Making new decisions, doing new things, quite often we're adding something in, right? Or we're starting something new. And I think sometimes doing that sort of additional moment is the stuff that makes it hard. And I think sometimes we just need to kind of look in a different lens, as Jim says, a different angle as to how do we start those new things. So today I think we've got, next slide please, John, on the slides. There's 2 things really I'm talking about today, and I'll unpack that over the next few minutes. And one really is learning to be still and what that means. And one is finding God's heart of compassion generally, but particularly in the stillness. And so that's really what I'm talking about today. I'm going to try and go, next slide please, to John over there. But I might miss those, but I've got little prompts. No, we're on... Oh, you're far too far ahead, John. Last slide please, John. That's fine, we're going to get to that anyway. You've probably figured out what one of the verses I'm talking about. About 6 years ago I read a book by Pete Greig called, he's written quite a few, a lot of them are incredible, most of them are about prayer, all of them are incredible. But this particular book called Dirty Glory, and I've got the paperback and it's like that thick, and I think someone bought it for my birthday. But then when I opened it, the words are like that big, and I was like, oh, that's good, I can read that one. And I got through that because I'm not a reader. And it's kind of Pete's autobiography about his story of stories through 24/7 prayer. If you don't know who Pete Greig is, one of the key people in the early days of 24/7 prayer. Brilliant book. And in it, Pete talks about this, I think he talks about it in a few books, this dangerous prayer that you can pray, which is this: Lord, break my heart for the things that break yours. And I'm often up for a bit of a challenge. So that's probably not the best place to put it with my massive feet, is it? So I prayed it, and as I read it. And over the years, since reading that book, I've occasionally thought of this prayer, and I've prayed it again. God, break my heart for the things that break yours. And nothing really changed for quite some time in my prayers or how I felt when I prayed until this past year. And I think possibly before 2024, but over the last year, 18 months, when I pray for stuff, or when I deeply connect with a conversation even about something that is kind of about the heart, compassion, or praying for someone, for their illness, for whatever it is, like I'm crying. And I'm not really a crier, I'm quite an emotional person, as Jim, who I work with, would say. He's always whinging in the office about something. But I'm not really a crier. But every time I'm getting this like shaky emotional stuff. And it is weird, it's confusing, it's often a bit sniffly. But I know it's God, and I think it's something to do with, I haven't prayed that prayer for a very long time, but I think it's something to do with, at some point in my past, I've said, God, just like shatter this. Do something different in me. break this for what you want and what you're doing in this world and in my life and in the people that I come across. And I think what probably he's done over the last year is start to dig around a little bit and going, oh, you asked me to, so I'm going to start to make this little bit of room in your heart, Steve, because that's what you've asked me to do. I've got a few bits till we go to slides, John, you're fine. I'm just going to share this story with you, and I'll come back to it in a minute. Some of you might have heard it. I heard it on a podcast recently. I don't know if this is a true story, but it's an illustrative story in a book by Dale Carnegie. And I heard it on a podcast recently, and it just, in the car, on the way to work, I was like, one evening on a crowded New York subway, imagine this scenario. Passengers getting really irritated and annoyed by these two young kids just going mad through the train, running around, jumping on seats, swinging on the poles, knocking people's bags, stepping on toes, knocking into people. And their rise in noise levels, right, when kids get going, we've all had or seen or been around kids when they get a bit too uncontrolled, right, and they are going. And everyone's getting annoyed, and it's quite a busy train. This guy, the dad's there, completely oblivious, it seems, which is usually the dad's role. I understand. And he was sitting there quietly, completely, seemingly oblivious, and then finally this one passenger speaks up and he says, oh, sir, I'm really sorry, like, could you control your children? And the dad Dad lifts his gaze as if he's waking up from a dream. He says, I'm really sorry. We've just come from the hospital where their mum died. About an hour ago. I guess they just don't know how to handle it as much as I don't. And in that second, that split second, everything in that carriage, that train, changed. Frustration, irritation, annoyance turned to compassion. The switch was flipped. Judgment to understanding, the atmosphere of that entire carriage changed. Slide 4, John. Back in October, Jim talked to us quite a bit about this series on the battlefield. Anyone remember that? Yes, we're in sync. In one of these weeks, he talked specifically about this verse in Psalms, be still and know that I'm God. And for me, over the years, we've even got it in our bathroom above the bath, be still, right? This idea of being still and is about relaxing, right? What do we do to relax? Eve, he probably plays FIFA. What do you do to relax, Tim? Tim or Tim? Play what? Yeah.
The reflection of the glass.
What was it? No, I can't see.
Chill out on the sofa.
Chill out on the sofa, TV on. What did you say, Tim H?
Maybe go for a walk.
Maybe go for a walk, so exercise, things like that. For some of us, it could be anything, right? We relax, and that's great. We should be relaxing. We should be finding time to chill out in our busy lives, because it's mad. But it's not what the Bible means by be still. And Jim went through this stuff. I'm not going to repeat his whole talk, and I will do it a lot quicker. Cut that bit. But the reality is sometimes the most profound moments of when we encounter God are sometimes when we're forced into stillness, rather than we choose to have a day off, or we choose to have a bath and just go, and they're good things. But actually sometimes, not that it's good that we're forced to, but in the moments when you are poked by God's compassion, like on the subway train, there is this sense of connection to God and his heart and what he's doing. We're going to jump into, you've got to keep up with me here, John, we're going to jump through 4 translations of this verse. Just to illustrate some of what I'm trying to say this morning, New King James Version says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, I will be exalted in the earth." New Living Translation says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be honoured among the nations and honoured throughout the world." Be still so that I will be exalted and honoured. Being still is not about us having a rest day and about us in a biblical sense. It is about finding God in the exalting and honouring. And contemporary English version, I love this one. Our God's Colin's not here today, but I can only hear this one in a Liverpool accent. Our God says, "Calm down and learn that I am God." I'm not going to do the accent. That I am God. See me afterwards. "All nations on earth will honour me." Calm down and learn. Calm down, chill out, relax, but learn that I am God. This one's, when I came across this, I'd never ever heard of this, but those from possible Catholic backgrounds may have. Catholic Public Domain version says, "Be empty and see that I am God. I will be exalted among the peoples and I will be exalted on earth." Be empty. Stop. Be empty. So lots of you know that know me. I'm fluent in Hebrew. I don't know why that's funny. Jim will love this part. Next slide, I think. But translation of "be still" in Hebrew is this word "rapha," and it's got a bunch of meanings, which I think are up there: to heal, to sink down, to relax, to let go. To let go. There's this thing for all of this stuff when we stop fighting and striving and chasing and doing and fixing and trying to make it ourselves and just be in God and just calm down and just relax and just be calm, be still, be empty. He is exalted. I'm going to illustrate this from Chronicles, which I think might be slide 10, not Narnia. I know what you're thinking, Evie. Christmas films, right? 2 Chronicles 20:17. That's fine for now. This story is about a king that I can't quite say his name, King Jehoshaphat. Is that right? Is that right, Pauline? Did I get that right? No, I do. King of Judah at the time, right? There's this huge threat coming towards King Jehoshaphat and his people, and they've kind of moved to this bit of land that God has promised them. And there's multiple armies, in fact, all coming together to take that land and to fight and get Jehoshaphat and his people out. So naturally, when things like that are coming towards you, you're a little bit scared, I would imagine. And Jehoshaphat is scared, he's worried, he doesn't know quite what to do, but he prays. He's a man of God, and he goes and stands in the temple courtyard and prays one of these most honest prayers. He starts with, "God, you're amazing, worship you, God," all this sort of stuff, which is good. We should do that. We should start with worship, of course. That's how God taught us to pray. And then he says, "God, please will you judge them? Please will you just deal with this? Please will you do something here? You've promised us this, and they're coming to take it." But then right at the end, most notably, he kind of admits complete helplessness. And I think it's the next slide. And he says, "God, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." All we've got is just to be still. All we've got in this coming at us, I've got no idea. I just need you. And there's this guy, one of the guys who's part of the gang, Jahaziel, I think. And he's got quite a prophetic gifting. And he says to the king that I've got this word from God, and the word is, you need not fight this battle. Take up your positions, get ready. You've still got to face it. Stand firm. See the salvation of the Lord on your behalf, O Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Go out and face them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. You've still got to go and face that stuff that's coming at your way, but don't be afraid about it. I'm with you. So the next day, slightly weirdly, but it kind of relates to what we've done this morning, King does something a little bit bizarre. He puts all the singers, all the worship team, he sends them out first. He goes, go on, you go out first. You go and worship. And they do. And they get out there and they start singing. And as they're praising and worshipping, God just sends these ambushes to the oncoming army. And they end up just fighting and killing themselves. Destroying each other completely. Who's seen Lord of the Rings? Slight spoiler here if you haven't. It's quite a while ago, come on. There's a point, I think it's Helm's Deep is the battle. There's this battle going on, and I love this image in the film, but also prophetically as almost God. And Gandalf appears at the top of this kind of valley hill on a white horse, shining sunshine behind him with his army, and he just goes, "Roar!" and they all shout, "For the king!" or something like that. And it's just, that's how I imagine this, is this God is just coming in going, "I'll do it. Go out and face it, but let me come in and I'll sort it out for you." God fights the battle. And the thing is, he doesn't fight this just because he can. And hopefully you're starting to see this, hopefully, analogy of our lives here. But he fights this also because of part of that prayer. We do not know what to do. I don't know what to do. But our eyes are on you. I surrender. I give it up. I don't know what to do. Next slide. Isaiah 30:15, which I think is probably one of the most well-known verses. Lots of us have probably heard or read. But the bit we all know is, "In quietness and confidence, or trust, is my strength." But then if you read the rest, it says, "In quietness and confidence is my strength, but you would have none of it. You said, no, we'll flee on horses, therefore you will flee. 1,000 will flee at the threat of one, at the threat of 5 you all flee away, till you are left like a flag on a mountaintop, like a banner on a hill." And then verse 18 says, "Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore he'll rise up to show you compassion. The Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him." Sometimes it's easy to run away from the stuff that's coming our way, right? Oh, if I go that way and round the corner, then it won't come my way. If I ignore it, shove it under the carpet, whatever that old school phrase is. Verse 19 says, "People of Zion who live in Jerusalem, you will weep no more. How gracious he will be when you cry for help. As soon as he hears, he will answer you." I guess the point I think I'm making this morning is I believe God is crying out for us every day, really, to stop trying to do it ourselves in our own steam, but still try, but put him first. Start with him. Stop trying to fix it, solve it, do it, build it, make it happen. This whole talk really is me, so that I can listen to it back and tell myself this. Stop trying to control things. Stop solving the problem ourselves. Be more Jehoshaphat, if you can say it. He still faced the army. God told him to, but he would have anyway. He's there for his people, right? But he brought it to God first. Not because he needed help, but because God, I don't know what to do. And like I say, what I'm not saying, I think, is that we then just go, "Thanks, God. Tell me when you're done." It's not about that. We've still got to face the stuff that comes our way, but we can put him first. Worship, prayer. Shove it at the start of everything, every day, every moment. Every time when you can't get the visuals to work. We didn't actually pray. I kind of moaned in my head at God. But we figured it. John figured it. We had about 15 minutes where none of that was working because of some weird software we use. But But we can bring that unexpected bill that just appears in the post. We can bring it to God. The rising cost of life, hard relationships. We can bring it, but we can keep bringing it. The battle may not go away for some time, but neither does God. I talked earlier a little bit about compassion. I read you that story. I've got another one if you're not crying yet. And I do sense that as I was praying, and it's come out in the worship, it's come out in some of the prayers this morning, it's come out in stuff people have said, and I sense there's this need for us to be still individually as a church and what that means. Just to go, okay, God, what are you doing? Okay, God, in the midst of this time, and we've seen 6 months ago we had a big financial deficit. Okay, God, what are you going to do? And now we've cleared that deficit because He fights the battles. But I also sense that in that time of waiting or stillness or that there's a compassion that God wants to just twist in our hearts. And I'm crying not because I'm passionate about it, but because it's something, like I said earlier, every time I talk about stuff like this, it just... And it's not good, because I'm about to share a story that will make me cry even more. Imagine this, lots of us probably could, because lots of us drink coffee, or some of us might even have or do work in coffee shops. But there was a coffee shop that was packed that morning. Imagine the line stretched nearly to the door. The lady in this story is called Sarah. Sarah works behind the counter. She's just become a little bit monotonous. She's been there since 5 a.m. that morning. It's in the late morning, it's 11, half 11. Just seems an endless rush. Each minute that passes, her patience is getting thinner. Then this elderly lady comes in, a bit trembling, digging through her purse, coins going all over the counter. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled. Fingers fumbling with each penny. "I know exactly how much I have here." You can see and hear these people behind her getting a bit restless. We've all done it. We all want our good coffee. We're all impatient. Sarah could sense that, and just as she was about to suggest that the woman step aside, she noticed the woman's hospital bracelet partially hidden under her sleeve. "Take your time," Sarah said. As the woman continued counting, Sarah noticed tears welling in her eyes. "My Harold, he always handled the money. This is my first time since..." And she couldn't finish her sentence. Sarah just said, "Why don't you sit down? Just go and sit down. We'll sort the money in a minute. I'll bring you a coffee." The woman looked up, her eyes meeting Sarah's. In that moment, the whole of the morning melted away. The line, the pressure, the rush, none of it mattered. In its place, a profound sense of connection. Of being exactly where she needed to be. Later, when I asked about that morning, Sarah would say it was one of the most spiritual moments she'd ever experienced. Not because of any grand gesture or miracle, but because in that brief exchange, she felt the presence of something greater than herself. It was as if God's compassion flowed through her, turning an ordinary coffee shop transaction into a moment of deep connection. There's loads of stuff in life that hits us and that hurts us and that frustrates us. Some of us, it might be a fear, it might be a bad habit, relationship issues, money issues, work problems, health issues, bereavement. Or just something else that you might have in your head that it just feels like there's no way out of this. Others of us don't have any of these things. Life might be pretty good by now. Good job, happy home, enough income, no health issues, no family problems. But what I really believe is that whatever it is, or perhaps whatever it isn't, God wants more of your heart. He wants you. He wants more of you. More, and more. And those of us facing these massive armies that are coming towards us, whatever that looks like for you, remember what he did first. And he did, if it was every day, he would do it first every day. We need you. Don't know what to do. And if you only take one thing from that, surrender preceded the miracle. But I don't know what to do. So our challenge, I think, today is just to stop, be still, and invite him deeper into our hearts. What if we were a people, a church, a family, a bunch of community people that saw everything, we worshipped it earlier, sang it earlier, through the eyes of Jesus? What if we actually were what that would look like? What if right now, this space we were in, we were so deeply touched by Jesus and his compassion, and Paul comes in at 1 o'clock going, it's time to get out, and we're just completely all over the shop. What if that happens on a Sunday morning here? Why can't it? I started earlier about talking about resolutions. I'm not actually talking for hours. I am about to finish. Some of us have resolutions, lots of us don't. Fine, they're good. Amazing to stop things, amazing to start new things. But I want to propose that today there's one resolution we should all be doing, not because we should, but because he longs for us to, and we see that impact. What if Jesus, more deeply filling our hearts, was this year's resolution? What if, like the meaning of Rapha, we allowed ourselves to be still and allowed Jesus to heal us, to sink down deeper into us, to relax us into life, and to facilitate us just letting go. Slide 14, I think this might be penultimate. There's a powerful promise in Ezekiel 36:26. This is like bang on today. God says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I'll remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I mentioned to Joe Jamman, wherever he is, earlier in the week. I did ask for Shine Jesus Shine, didn't I? Doesn't listen to me. But I did ask for one song. We're going to do that in a minute. It's slightly different this morning. We're going to lead into a time of response with worship and position ourselves for this sense of surrender for those that feel you can and you want to. But what all us sort of mentioned to Joe as we were talking about being still and what that might mean. And this morning as we were praying, Joe literally prayed that, more or less. God, will you take our stony hearts that we've perhaps not paid any attention to you over Christmas and we've just done life because Christmas is so busy and it's events and it's family and whatever, and help us find our softness of our heart towards you again. There's something really interesting I find in this verse is God says, I will give you and I will remove. It isn't something we can do. It isn't a, oh yeah, right, yes, I'm going to be a better Christian, so I better do that. I should pray more. I should read my Bible more. I should do those things. Yeah, they're great. But it doesn't get you a new heart. God gives you the new heart. But it starts with surrender. Just like Rafa, be still. That subway story, and judgment turned to compassion. That's what a heart of flesh looks like. God, what are you doing with me? What I find probably most interesting is that God doesn't say, come to me, I'll sort your heart and I'll make it look gleaming and godly. It says, I'm going to give you a new heart from me. It's my heart. 360. God, break my thing, break my heart for the things that break yours. Connect me deeper, God. So when we talk about perhaps a resolution where we make room for God, for Jesus more this year, it isn't about adding another thing into our lives. This isn't a criticism for those that are adding new things in. It's about putting Him first in the things that are in our life. It's about facing the battle and putting Jesus and worship and prayer before we enter that battle. We're talking about turning our stony hearts into flesh hearts filled with compassion.